We're handing out information on PFAS. Do you want some?
Since the scandal broke 3 years ago, Lucy and Stephanie have stopped going to the market for groceries. Now their daily routine is about raising awareness.
This lady's very interested.
And these are proven pathologies?
Yes. Here we see all the pathologies that have been identified as a result of exposure to PFAS, kidney, testicular and liver cancer. We've summarized all the information we have today on perfluorinated compounds, the way we're exposed to them and their impact.
We're here to talk about pollution.
Lucy and Stephanie live just a few hundred meters from Daikin and Arkema, two French chemical heavyweights that together employ over 1,000 people. For decades, their plants have released forever chemicals into the air, water, and soil. This invisible menace was revealed by a team of investigative journalists. They found that levels of PFOA in the air around the plant were 8 times higher than the norm established by the UN. This substance, classified as carcinogenic by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, is now banned in Europe.
When I realized how much we had poisoned our children, it made me so angry, especially for my youngest child, who has a single kidney. And we know that PFAS are toxic for kidneys and can cause kidney cancer. When I think of him, it really hurts and worries me.
Anxious for their children, Lucy and Stephanie have decided to join the first collective legal action against the two groups. In the neighborhood, Thierry Munib is already at the forefront of this legal battle, with 6 lawsuits launched against Daikin and Arkema. Like his neighbors, he can no longer enjoy his garden.
We had raspberry bushes down there. We had raspberries, we took them out. They're flowers now. There were strawberries for my grandchildren, I tore them out.
Local authorities recommend that fruit and vegetables grown within a 500-meter radius of the plant should not be eaten. Thierry lives next door with a front row seat to the pollution.
All the chemical pollution from the plant lands on our doorstep. When I say on our doorstep, I mean everywhere. It settles on the roofs, on every surface. And with the slightest rain, it seeps into the ground, into the water table, everywhere.
Like Thierry Munib, local residents want more controls and transparency. They are all concerned about their health.
The lady who lived over there died of cancer a few months ago. The lady at the back also died of cancer. The lady next door has one. The other lady behind also has one. The husbands have also died.
Thierry suffers from diabetes. His wife has breast cancer and Parkinson's disease. Did the exposure to PFAS play a role? To find out, a dozen local residents had blood tests. Their PFAS levels were 7 times higher than the French average.
For example, this former Arkema employee, he's at 224 micrograms. That's 440 times the standard. He's been retired for 17 years. He still has a lot of PFAS. It's not that easy to eliminate.
Just like tobacco, exposure to PFAS increases the risk of developing cancer. But proving a direct link between a person's exposure and an illness is difficult. Thierry Munib and other local residents want to make sure that they're no longer exposed to this pollution. So when Daikin announced it was using a new PFAS in its plant, they tried to stop the launch of the new unit in court. 4 months after the unit was shut down, Daikin was finally authorized to resume production after reinforcing its safety measures.
You have the pipe that comes out, which is what captures all the emissions. This is the pipe that collects all the capture points in the pre-compound unit.
To what extent are you addressing the concerns of local residents?
We did a number of things. We carried out additional studies and we put in place additional technical measures with this absolute filter to achieve an emission level close to 0. Daikin also launched a transparency initiative a few months ago, inviting associations to visit the factory. We show them what our product looks like, how we manufacture it, and how we control our emissions. We then engage in dialogue and communication with them.
The plant's director wants to show that Daikin is acting responsibly. But in the past, the group has been on the radar of environmental authorities over another PFAS, HFP, a substance that can cause cancer. Daikin exceeded the established HFP air emission standard by up to 500 times and took 4 years to comply. Residents want to know who is responsible for this invisible pollution. They accuse you of being responsible. What do you have to say to that?
I can tell you that Daikin complies with the regulations. Daikin minimizes its emissions and goes beyond the applicable regulations. But I think that the subject of PFAS is a little more general, and these products are diverse and are used in many applications. So I think that the subject is not necessarily limited to manufacturers and is much broader.
While Daikin maintains that it complies with the law, the Lyon Metropolitan Authority wants to be sure that it has done so in the past. Lyon has taken the matter to court to assess Daikin's share of responsibility for water contamination south of the city. And Daikin is not the only plant under scrutiny. For more than 10 years, its neighbor Arkema released up to 3.5 tons of pollutants per year into the Rhone River, contaminating the drinking water of several dozen towns. 150,000 people are still affected, including in Bonneray. This evening, Lucy and her collective organized a meeting in the town's theater. Along with the lawyer defending them, they want to convince local residents to join their legal action. Their aim, bring together the largest mass action against PFAS in Europe.
The key is to change the way companies think. Today, the benefits of polluting like this far outweigh the risks, and we need to reverse the balance and make it extremely costly for them. Because in the end, it was a business decision that they made, and now we have to tell them, actually, with 500 people, your business decision was a bad one.
In order to win, their lawyer has a plan to prove the anxiety suffered by local residents in court. In other words, their fear of developing illnesses.
Multinationals are going to play on the causal link, diffused exposure. We have to cut the ground from under this strategy and say the simple fact of being exposed to this pollution, which can potentially generate serious pathologies later on, is a prejudice.
The French are not the only ones waging this war. In Belgium, Sweden, and the Netherlands, dozens of actions are underway across Europe. Because once pollution occurs, the harm to the earth and human beings must be healed, and it's a titanic task. In Italy, west of Venice, the Miteni group is accused of releasing PFAS for almost half a century into one of Europe's largest underground water reserves.
Here we are.
We're at the entrance.
The plant has now closed, but decontamination work is far from complete, much to the despair of Giovanna and Katia.
Did you see it?
What?
They're working.
Both live in the red zone, the most contaminated area in the sector. 8 years after the scandal, forever chemicals are still polluting the groundwater.
We're taking photos to see how work is progressing. Things are happening, but there's not a lot of movement.
What we want is for the soil to be cleaned up and decontaminated. Decontamination means digging up and removing the soil. Instead, 8 years later, we're still here.
A total of 350,000 people are still exposed to this pollution. For years, Giovanna's family drank their well water without knowing that it was full of PFAS. Her life was turned upside down when a mass screening was carried out on all the youth in the area. Her 5 children were poisoned without her knowledge.
It was a blow to the heart. That day, I immediately got in touch with other mothers, and everyone was in the same situation. We all had very high values, but nobody told us how to deal with this criminal situation.
From that day, these mothers have united against the manufacturer.
We'll put this here.
Buongiorno.
Since the trial began 4 years ago, they have protested at every hearing. In the red zone, an Italian study recorded 4,000 additional deaths in 30 years. Giovanna's battle is to make sure that there are no more victims. Her eldest daughter lives with an alarming level of PFOA, a PFAS classified as carcinogenic.
Above 20 nanograms, it is very harmful. My daughter has 328 nanograms. We're doing this for our children's children and for the future generations so that life remains.
Civil parties are seeking damages of 200 million euros. We asked Miteni for their side of the story. Their lawyers refused all our requests for interviews.
Can we ask, what is your defense line?
No.
If the manufacturer prefers to stay silent, it's because the stakes are high. Managers face up to 15 years in prison. They are accused of polluting the drinking water network and soil across 700 square kilometers. But above all, of having been aware of the ongoing contamination and not saying anything to authorities. Today, farmers are still paying the price for this large-scale pollution. Giovanni, one of Giovanna's sons, is a wine grower in the red zone. He is faced with a dilemma, whether or not to sell contaminated wine to his customers.
This water is full of PFAS, and we don't use it to irrigate our vines. Farmers are demanding answers and solutions, but for the moment there are no clear, definitive answers about how to irrigate our land.
Giovanni has opted for a PFAS-free wine. For that, he had to spend 70,000 euros on new vines that consume less water.
We rely solely on rainwater. Compared with other varieties, these allow us not to irrigate and to obtain good quality.
To date, there is no law preventing farmers from using contaminated water. Everyone does what they can, following their own conscience, and above all, their own means. Residents like Giovanni and his family are waiting for institutions and industrial groups to take responsibility, so future generations will never again have to live with this poison.